Hi, I'm Alice, founder of the Aureus Group. If you can't command your mind, you cannot command results in an organization. Everything rises on mental clarity, mental stillness, and this is what trickles down to driving very sober judgment on leadership. Welcome to today's topic. I think we've discussed severally in this channel that leadership barely fails or underdelivers because of lack of talent. I think most corporates, not even I think, I know that most corporates go out there to look for the best talent. It's literally a talent war out there. I mean, as a hiring manager myself, it wasn't easy going to get the best talent for the roles that you needed sometimes. What happens that brings so much cloudiness in the way organizations operate? There's something to do with clarity that gets diluted. We find that most leaders stop seeking clarity on a day-to-day for themselves, but also for the organization, right? They start living in a world of mental clutter. And I think today, that is what we want to discuss today around what are the 3 areas to consider when you're talking about navigating clarity and anchored on mental clarity to ensure that there's awareness enough for the leaders to make the best sound decisions. The modern leader is a very busy person. If I think about myself, for example, I'm a mom, I play sports, I run other businesses, I'm a community leader, I'm a consultant. Like, look at me, my life is hectic, like H for hectic. This is the standard. The modern world is much more noisier. There's so much that needs our attention and all that. And I think the first step is to accepting that situation and realizing that there's so much that compete for your attention. And knowing that is then learning to get to a place of selfishly separating the world's issues or things surrounding you as a person and your responsibility to drive leadership within your organization or your community. Because the moment those two clash, then there's just a lot of chaos. And the chaos that comes from one area of your life seeps into another area of your life or leadership. You cannot separate the two. And if you cannot do it properly, then you find that there's a whole big leadership crisis always in your hands as well. And you're very unlikely to pause the crisis. There's a lot of spiraling that happens because you're not able to identify the real source of the chaos. And that's because you're not gotten to a place of mental clarity. And in my experience, I've been there before as well, whereby there's a lot of demands in the workplace. The stakes are high. Like I said, working for a big organization listed in the London Stock Exchange is not easy. It's not there, listed there by fluke. So there's a lot of high pressure, valuable pressure, actually, to deliver those results and give the stakeholders and the shareholders what they're looking for. So the environment is never tailored, to be quite frank, for sanity. It's not. So most of the times you need to fight for your own sanity. You need to find your own source of sanity. And it starts from really identifying the triggers and the trends around which are the things that really weigh you down the most as well, and what are the things that give you the biggest motivation on a day-to-day. That awakening and awareness, for me, is always the first step. And I've worked with so many younger leaders, and even established leaders, and one of the biggest issue that they have faced, and they have communicated that, is they're not able to prioritize because everything seems important. Is everything important? Yes. Family, community, results in the workplace, yes. But is everything equally important and urgent at the same time, in the same wavelength? The answer is always no. But the idea of not slowing down your mind to even filter out the difference is where the problem really lies. They say if your mind is scattered, your organization will be scattered too. There's no two way about it, right? And this is where mental presencing comes in, the idea of practicing mental presence. A couple of years back, when I started getting into a space of creating more balance in my life. I think I was in the middle level of my career at the time. I remember I had a coach, and one of the things we worked on together was around mental presencing. And it went something like waking up in the morning with clear intentions of the day, not of work, of the day generally. What kind of day do I want to have? Because the idea illusion that you have that you can separate work from other things in life is really it's a reality. Many people think it's possible, but you're the same person navigating both ships. So when you wake up in the morning, setting that intention in the morning is very critical, and that will signal your mind and enable you to operate in a way that you personally define and not defined by the environment you're going to face during the day. And so setting intentions for the day enable you to kind of move at your own pace. The world will not see this. The world will see you rushing by alongside them, getting in and out of meetings with them. But mentally, you have a fortitude that nobody can take away from you. You then are able to make decisions slightly slower, think through them. You're able to respond to situations much more soberly and calmer than reacting and combusting. I've been in situations whereby, things happen in the workplace and the teams combust, forget even reacting. It's a total combustion because everybody is operating at very high pressure, like high octane environment. This is a reality, right? And remember, there's a limit to pressure. We are only humans, right? So the idea of presencing from the early morning enables you to set the tone for your day, and in between, you choose how you react, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the situation that you're facing at that time. So that presencing becomes how you operate during the day. And in between, I remember we learned about mental pauses, whereby for me, because I'd reached a point where I was operating under very high pressure, I needed a lot of regulation. I was starting from scratch, literally. So I got an assignment from my coach around mental pauses, where every hour, most people do it maybe every half a day or at the end of the day, but mine was every hour. I had to do a mental pause. And during these mental pauses, I had to step out of everything mentally. I could be in a meeting, but mentally I've checked out just for a minute to just ask myself, how are you feeling? Because most time people ask you, how are you feeling? They don't have time for the answer. Because if you are to download how you're feeling to them at that time, they'll be like, okay, I didn't actually mean to ask you to tell me about everything you're going through, but ideally they want to seem nice, but you need to take care of yourself first. So the hourly pauses helped me a lot, asking myself, how are you feeling now? And really getting back into your body and listening and say, okay, right now I feel very angry because this person did this, this and that. Right now I feel tired. Now you're communicating with your body more actively because your body becomes now your kind of your microphone. It amplifies everything you're thinking through the feelings, body language, and how you're reacting to situations as well, right? So mental pauses were really key for me at that time, and something I do till today. I don't do them hourly, but I do them as often as I can. Sometimes when I get home from work, before I get out of the car, I switch off the engine. I don't get out immediately. Because I remember as a mom, you want to get out of the car and you want to rush to the next assignment, which is being a parent, right? You want to rush into it so quickly. Because either you're feeling guilty that you've spent so much time at work, or you're feeling just the usual parent guilt that, oh, I should have done homework with the kids. So what I do nowadays, I switch off the car engine and I stay in the car for 5 minutes. Just breathe out the stress of the day, and I breathe in new energy to enable me to bring in calm energy to the home and not carry over the day's stresses again back into the house. So nothing has really changed. So that's how I divide the two environments. By the time I'm getting up into the house, I'm so relaxed once again, right? So it's this deliberate, small, they look silly sometimes, but it's those things that carry us through the day, especially if you're working in a high pressure environment. There's something I talk about a lot with the people I've led before, and I tell them, nobody is going to come and tell you to take time to yourself for critical thinking or to learn something new. Every manager wants results. So it's unlikely for a manager to say, oh, so-and-so, take 5 minutes today, just go and think to yourself. It's unlikely, right? Even if they mean the best. So learning to take time to yourself, literally scheduling in your calendar, time for you to grow yourself, how you think, how you view situations is very important. Once you have about 40 hours a day, you're in meetings all the time. I'm sure in between those meetings, you can schedule your own meeting as well with yourself to really do critical thinking around life, around even the work environment, and also just around what you're facing at the moment. And the more you think through the situation with clarity, with sobriety, with calmness, you find that you become a much better solution giver than most people who want to rush through solutions. You've taken time to think through it independently, and you've given it your own wisdom because you have your own innate wisdom. You don't need to have an MBA to be wise. You have your own wisdom. But because you're taking time to think through the problem independently, you become a much better solution giver to the organization. So protect your time to think, protect your time to think through solutions, and make it a ritual. You realize you start becoming now much more of a strategist than someone who just does tasks and moves to the next one. And that is how leadership growth comes aboard. So the topic today really was around also how to get your mind back into the game. Because, like I said, the modern leader is stretched like a rubber band. You're stretched from every corner. Everyone wants a piece of you, your talent, your time, and all that. But then how do you ensure that you're getting back into the game? How do you hold yourself accountable for that? So it's about being intentional about it. It's about carving out the time to really link what you're doing to your long-term goals as well. The more you reflect back on your long-term goals, you find that the more you can kind of almost control, right, how you run your day to day amidst this hectic corporate schedule that's the proverbial hectic. You're able to actually manipulate it because you're kind of in control, because you're slowing down at the perfect times to find the sanity for yourself. Number two, as well, you have to learn to work with the system. The system within corporate is designed for hierarchy and also leadership experience passed from one generation to another. Most people don't take advantage of that. You have top leaders that are so experienced at the board level, at the CEO level, at the executive level, but most emerging leaders don't take advantage of them. They don't. They shy off from them. So take time to use the system to your advantage. All these people, their experiences can be yours. Their knowledge can be yours if you tap into them deliberately and willingly. And one of the most important things I talk about as well is around knowing what battle is yours. The notion that you want to solve everything is a fallacy. It's really a waste of energy because you cannot be this person who can solve everyone's problem, especially in the corporate world. You cannot be. That's why you work in teams, people with different expertise. In my time in corporate, I remember I was very good at being resourceful for solutions, not because I had all the answers, but I always knew somebody who had the solution. If I needed somebody to work with me on a P&L for a new brand, I knew exactly who was so good at it. If I needed help with a governance paper, I knew exactly who had the expertise to do that. I didn't rack my brain trying to redo governance papers, some from scratch. No, I went back to the archives and I leaned back onto the experts within the wider organization. And you find that then you free up time to continue sharpening what you're good at. And the more you're sharpening what you're good at with clarity, you now become a subject matter expert in that field and you add more value to your business because you're now focusing on the areas that you actually naturally now excel at, not trying to be every person's solution or a jack of all trades. Of course, within your tenure in the corporate world, you can have a chance to cut across various departments to get new expertise. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually worked in 5 departments within 16 years, all the way from manufacturing into innovations, into marketing, into commercial, literally. However, what was true across was my skill set was linked into one direction, meaning I was able to harness and consolidate my experience across all these 5 departments over time, making me even a much more stronger leader with great breadth and also depth, not just functionally, but also as a leader. Thanks very much for tuning in today. I think a very interesting topic. It's one of those that is not spoken about enough, but I think if you gave it a lot of attention, we definitely deliver better outcomes through our leaders and our teams. And also, like I said before, as I started, if you don't have mental clarity, then it's unlikely that you'll run a ship that is organized as well, because everything starts with mental clarity. Follow us, follow our journey, the Aureus group. Like, subscribe, share with your friends and community, and let's keep the conversations alive.